the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week.
I'm Linda Elsegood, and welcome to Story of the Week.
Oh, fantastic. That is Linda. She is our guest for today. And of course, I am your host, Joshua. And today's question is single pill revolutionize the treatment of autoimmune diseases? That's just a little quirky little question out there to put us on the map right here because Linda will be the guest and she's going to talk about that more and a little more deeper into the journey or information, everything that we need to learn more about autoimmune diseases. Linda Elsegood was diagnosed with MS in 2000. Following her success with LDN, she founded the LDN Research Trust as a UK nonprofit registered charity in 2004. The LDN Research Trust is run purely by volunteers. They receive no funding and rely on donations. They liaise closely with prescribers, pharmacists, and patients, offering support and education. And today, Linda is going to share her story with us, her perspective, their mission with LDN, and so much more. Linda, thank you for coming on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and thank you very much for inviting me. As you can imagine, I talk about LDN all day, every day. to try and
LDN
raise.
all day, every day, all
Yeah,
year, all your life, all seasons. Linda, the mission is clear and the purpose is clear, and why you talk about LDN. Of course, I'm quite excited to offer this platform to talk about precisely that. But Linda, before we get into it, I want to know what young Linda was like. Was the young Linda, always into the medical breakthroughs? Was she always into, the what was she like basically? What would the young Linda think about the Linda of today?
she would be astounded. It
Mm.
wasn't a path that I intended to go down. I've done several things in my life, and I ended up in banking. So numbers was my passion before being sick. My husband worked in television, so when he was
Mhm.
working, he wasn't at home. I had two children. I used to do the cooking, the cleaning, being the taxi to the children because we lived in a village.
Oh.
And I honestly, you know what they say, if you want something done, ask a busy person. Well, that person
Mhm.
was me. And I
Oh.
truly believed I was Wonder Woman. I could do everything, anything, and life was fantastic. And
Mhm.
then I hit a brick wall health wise and ended up in bed, um,
Okay.
not knowing what was wrong with me. So I'll tell you how I
Yes,
ended
please.
up being so sick.
Um, uh, I understand this happened around 2000, and of course, like you were also, like you said, like Wonder Woman. You were all there. You were everywhere. Talk to us about the experience of what that must have felt when all of a sudden that power was taken away from you.
Well, it wasn't just the power, my worst. Okay.
Oh,
I had double vision. I lost the hearing in my left ear. You could have
oh
drawn
no.
a line right the way down my body, and the left hand side was numb with pins and needles
Oh
all the
no.
time. And if you've had a local anaesthetic to have a tooth
Mhm.
removed or filling,
Mhm.
it was
Mhm.
that kind of feeling, but it was very intense and it was there all the
Oh
time.
my. Oh my.
I had twitching muscles. I had restless legs. And for those people that know what restless leg syndrome is, when you
Mhm.
try and go to sleep, your legs move involuntary. You're not moving them, but your legs
Mhm.
are moving on their own. And I can
Mhm.
remember thinking, okay, I'll let my legs move once more and then that's it. And then you'd count, 30 seconds and they'd move again. It was
Mhm.
extremely frustrating, but I lost my bowel and bladder control as well. Cognitively, it was as though I'd had a stroke. I couldn't recall vocabulary. I got
Wow.
everything muddled, and it was I thought I was getting dementia because it was just
Oh.
so difficult thinking. I was choking on my food, slurring my words. I had
Hmm.
extremely bad vertigo. I had no
Hmm.
balance. So when I did try and get up, I tripped, fell, stumbled. So and I had chronic fatigue. So I slept
Hmm.
20 hours out of the 24, can you believe?
Oh my.
But I was either asleep, on the floor, or on the toilet. But I had to have people helping me. And then I got so bad that I didn't know where my mouth was. So people had to put a cup to my lips. I'm a workaholic, and
Hmm.
I like to achieve things, and
Yes.
suddenly everything was taken away, you know. And
Hmm.
I can remember crying in anger and frustration when I would wet myself, and I was thinking, a 3-year-old can do this. Why can't I do this anymore? You know, everything that I could do, I suddenly couldn't do. And
Hmm.
lying in bed, I can remember thinking, it was just like one of those calendars that flip over, you know, the first of the month,
Hmm.
the second, the third. What had I done? I just tried to survive from one day to the next. You know, my
Right.
quality of life was not there.
Right.
Mentally,
Completely
very,
gone.
very depressing.
Completely flipped. Your life was just suddenly upended, especially for someone who was so used to doing everything, and then all of a sudden you can't even take care of yourself anymore. You were so used to taking care of everyone else around you. Linda,
Mm.
there are no words. I can't even begin to describe what you were going through. But you pulled through, and here you are today. Linda, what was that like? How long did it take for you to recover? And what was that journey like to begin picking yourself up again?
Mhm. Well, in 2003, I went to see
Hmm.
my neurologist, who examined me, and he helped me sit
Hmm.
down, and he put his hand across the desk and shook hands with me and said, "I'm really sorry, you're secondary progressive now, and there's nothing more we can do for you." And as he was saying that,
Wow.
he got up, opened the door to show me and my husband out, because I was in a wheelchair.
No.
And that was it. So all hope had been stripped. It
Right.
was like I'd got a life sentence of waiting to die. There was
Hmm.
nothing else that the medical professionals could do for me. And I had contemplated ending it all. Um, it was a very tough decision. I was in bed.
Hmm.
Doesn't happen these days, but my doctor came out and brought me some more very strong painkillers because I had an awful lot of pain. And
Right.
it was a trade-off. I could have the painkillers that just took the edge off the pain, so it was bearable. But by
Hmm.
doing that, the nausea was so bad. It was like acute travel sickness, pregnancy sickness. I felt as though I was going to vomit when I moved my head. So it took a lot for me
Oh
to take
my
the tablets, and then afterwards I think, should I really have done that? And
gosh.
the doctor came and he brought me a new bottle of pills. I was there on my own, and I said to him,
Right.
"When do you think I will start to feel better?" And he said, "Well,
Right.
I think if you were going to, you would have done by now." Lying in
Oh.
bed and having somebody do everything for you, and the look in people's eyes where they are
Right.
upset, they don't know what
Hmm.
to do, they want to
Hmm.
help, but how do they help? My parents
Hmm.
kept saying, you know, I was 44 at the time, if only we could take it from you. We've had our lives. You're
Yeah.
still young. You've got a lot of life. Um,
Yes.
and my children and my husband, I was a brake on everybody's life. Nobody could move on and do what they wanted to do because I had to be looked
Oh
after.
my.
So
Oh
I
my.
thought if I took the pills, everybody would be sad, of course, but I wanted to give them
Right.
their lives back because I couldn't see any other
Right.
way of achieving that. But then I thought, who was going to
Right.
find me? It was my 15-year-old daughter. Well, I couldn't do that to a 15-year-old, you know? So the only option was to prove everybody wrong, that yes, I could get better. I didn't know how.
Wow.
So back in 2003, the internet wasn't like it
Right.
is today. There was no Google, there was no Facebook.
Right. Right.
Um, there was Ask Jeeves. We didn't have fast internet. It was dial-up, and it was really
Ask
expensive.
Jeeves.
But I could
Oh
only
my
sit at
gosh.
the
Ask
computer for 10
Jeeves.
minutes. That was,
Right.
yes,
Right.
for 10 minutes. And then I'd have to go back to bed for a nap, which was 3 or 4 hours. That was a nap for me. I just
Oh
used
my
to go
goodness.
completely. But anyway, eventually I found, in those days they had chat rooms, and I found an MS
Okay.
chat room, and people were saying, because I knew I wasn't unique, I knew there must be other people similar to me, even though I didn't know who they were. And everybody
Right.
kept saying, you should try LDN. If it doesn't do you any good, it won't do you any harm. And these were people in America.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I investigated trying to get LDN in the UK. Very, very difficult. I was given information to take to my own doctor to see if it was a new doctor, a young lady doctor, if she would prescribe it. She wasn't a partner, wasn't able to prescribe it, but I managed to get it privately from a Dr. Bob Lawrence in Wales, who has since departed, but I owe him my life, you know.
Wow.
I was told I could probably have introductory side effects. In those days, we took higher doses to start with. It was 3.5, and then after a month, he went up to 4. And the dropout rate was really high. And I was one of about 400 people in the UK at that time taking LDN. I was told you might have headaches, but I had headaches anyway, stomach upsets, sleep disturbance, vivid dreams. I wanted all those side effects because I wanted to know it was working, because I hadn't got a plan B. LDN was my
Oh,
plan,
of
you know.
course. That was it.
So week 1, nothing. Week 2, nothing. Week 3, when
Okay.
I was beginning to think that nothing was going to work, suddenly, because living in my head at that time was like a television set that wasn't tuned in. I couldn't see properly, hear properly, think properly. And suddenly it was as
Right.
though that television set was being tuned in, and I could start to think. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal with everything else I was coping with, but be able to think
Right.
and feel like yourself again was absolutely amazing. And it went from
Right.
there, and it took like 18 months to get to where I am today.
Oh my goodness. So it's just, first of all, it's a remarkable journey, Linda. Uh it's not something that you encounter every day. The amount of burden that there's, again, I could keep going on and try to describe it and imagine what you went through, but it's even it's the what you went through is probably also just as worse as what the people around you was going through as well. The burden that must have felt on you as well, and it there's just the hopelessness of it all, right? But you have offered us hope because right now you are talking to us here and you've pulled through that now. And of course there's a great story behind it because you found LDN at a time where, like you said, you had no plan B. So for our audience and listeners out there right now who are probably listening and probably questioning, like, my goodness, how did she pull through, what happened? Of course, LDN is what you call low dose naltrexone, if I'm saying that right. Low dose naltrexone. It's why. First question is, a few first couple of questions is, what is LDN for our audience and listeners, and why was it not so well known of a treatment back then, and even so now?
Okay. LDN is low dose naltrexone, and naltrexone was trialed back in the late 1970s, and it was used for addiction, alcohol and opioid addiction.
I see.
But it, like all drugs, when a drug company develops a drug, they do all the trials and studies, and they have the patent. And when a patent runs out, it becomes a generic drug, and then any drug company can make the drug. So LDN
All
is
right.
out of patent, meaning no drug company is going to make a fortune out of LDN, because it's like £30 a month in the UK or $30 a month in the US. It's very,
Wow.
very cheap, and that is a problem. And There are people that get it on the NHS, but most people end up paying for it out of pocket. So that's the reason why it's not readily available, because you have to do clinical trials and they're normally drug company driven. So to do it privately, you've got to raise a lot of money. Now, we can get the first trial off the ground if we had 2.5 million. As you can imagine, that's an awful lot of money. Mm-hmm. So LDN works on your Dr. Ian Zagon, who's done hundreds and hundreds of studies in laboratories of LDN, and he says that LDN helps regulate a dysfunctional immune system. Now, we also know it works on toll-like receptors. Now, your toll-like receptors fight inflammation, and any chronic condition, whether it's chronic pain or an autoimmune disease or even infertility, the reason your body is going in, they call it a body on fire, it's full of inflammation. You can get it down to a certain degree with diet and some supplements, but LDN really is a game changer for most people. And it also works on cancers and can help what they call cell death. So that's really good. But I'll just say, why did I start the LDN Research Trust? Because I was so ill and I felt as though I was getting my life back, was at a crossroads. What did I want to do? Did I want to go back to work and say, I'm okay? Or did I want to help those people that were in that deep, dark place that I was in? Well, it was a no-brainer. I got to help other people.
Of course.
The only way of doing that, after talking to lots of people, was to set up a registered charity. So that was the goal. But when I looked at some of the other charities, like 3/4 of their money that they raise to do good deeds go on salaries. So to me, that was totally wrong. So I wanted everybody to be a volunteer, myself included, so that, you know, if you were to donate £10, $10, you know that it's going to help the charity, not to line somebody's pockets. So that was really, really important to me. LDN in its low strength was first used in 1985 by Dr. Bernard Bahari, and he was using LDN at that time for the AIDS epidemic. He was given that task of trying to help AIDS patients, but he had a friend and he had noticed in the AIDS patients, those patients that had autoimmune diseases as well as the AIDS, did really, really well with those conditions. And a friend's daughter had MS, and Dr. Bahari thought that LDN would be good. And this young lady had a very similar response that I had. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. So much so, she thought after a few years, why am I taking this? I haven't got MS. I've been misdiagnosed. There is absolutely nothing wrong with me. So I'm taking this drug for no reason. So she stopped. And then slowly all her symptoms and her MS let itself be known. And she went back on it, yes. Do I want to try and find out if LDN is keeping me as I am? No, I wouldn't want to risk stop taking it, because I would feel, what happens if I don't get back to where I am now? That would be really scary.
Right, that is true. I mean, first off, these are things why it baffles me. But you've already explained that. Why is it not more easily accessible? And with all the results that it's shown people, with all the results that it's shown you, that we see in you, and again, like you said, this girl that you just talked about who stopped it and her symptoms returned, there's all sorts of signs pointing that it does work. And why didn't we know about it? I'm particularly frustrated about this right now, because my mother passed with cancer and we didn't know what the LDN was, and now I'm seeing this, I'm learning all this, and of course, we can't take back what's happened, we can't take back the past, but now we can look forward to the message and what you guys are doing at LDN Research Trust, where you are putting that message out there that people can learn more about this. And now, of course, you're saying that you wouldn't want to know what it would be like without if you didn't take LDN, you wouldn't want to risk that. But now you're able to manage this disease, MS, with the help of LDN. You are also with the LDN Research Trust by talking about LDN or putting out their message out there. Linda, what would be a message right now that you would want our audience and listeners to take away from this episode, especially when it comes to LDN, but more really with struggles when it comes to overcoming obstacles, Linda? How
Mm.
would you compare your life before and after LDN?
Night and day, absolutely night and day.
Mm,
But I would say to
mm,
people, you are your best advocate,
right.
and I thought years ago, if a doctor told you you have to do XYZ, that you really had to do it. But if you think something isn't right for you, speak up.
Mhm,
Tell people I don't want to
mhm.
do this and explain why. LDN can be taken alongside of chemotherapy, radiation. A lot of cancer patients use it as an additional therapy alongside. And I wouldn't tell anybody
Right.
to stop taking medications they're on. But there
Of course.
are people with, say, fibromyalgia who take 14 plus medications a day because
Mhm,
of the
mhm.
symptom relief that they get with LDN. Sometimes they drop down to just taking, 3 a day,
Oh my
so your
goodness.
body isn't clogged up with pharmaceutical medications, which has to be good.
Yes, of
So I would
course.
say do
Yes.
your own research. There is so much research now. We've got the LDN
Mhm,
books 1, 2, and 3, which are more
mhm.
medical based, but for people who want to do a
Right,
deep dive, they're fantastic. You can get them from
right.
Amazon and they're as ebooks. We've just launched in June New Horizons,
Mhm.
which is a book of LDN testimonials. It's aimed at patients, but
Wow.
medical professionals seem to like it too. But it's LDN testimonials from doctors, researchers, pharmacists, and patients. It covers many, many conditions. So that,
Mhm,
to me, gives people hope, which I felt
mhm,
I didn't have. And
mhm.
we have webinars, we have radio shows. We do webinars where people can register and join us and ask their questions of the medical
Oh,
professional
fantastic.
who was there. So,
Okay.
if you
Wow,
had a
wow, wow.
question, I've got XYZ, this is what I take. Do you think I could
Right,
take LDN or such like?
right. Okay, so at the episode, ladies and gentlemen, our audience and listeners, this is very, very important because I feel like this mission that you are doing, this message that we are putting out there, I'm glad that we get to do this right now, Linda. Of course, the website is LDNR events.com. That is one of the websites. And of course, you can also find more about LDN Trust Research, about LDN Research Trust.org. Linda, where else can we find more? Where else can we learn more? And of course, where can we connect with you? We'd love to keep up with your life.
Okay. We're on YouTube. So you
Mm-hmm.
can put in the LDN Research Trust in YouTube. We're on LinkedIn. We're on, it's funny because they call X and they put it in brackets Twitter. I mean, is it going to be always
Decide,
that, or is it
right?
going to
What is
be
it?
exactly?
Precisely.
We're on
Mhm.
Instagram. We've just started
Mhm.
on TikTok.
Wow.
We're on
Wow, wow,
radio
wow.
show platforms. As you know, they go on Spotify, iTunes, absolutely everywhere. And my email address, people can contact me, Linda, Linda, at
Mhm.
ldnrt.org. And
Mhm.
everybody gets a reply.
Of course, go connect with Linda. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a family member or anyone else that you know can feel or you think can benefit from LDN, that is where to find them. That is the website. Of course, the website, once again, is LDN Research Trust Org. We'll have it all up in there in the notes as well. And everything else that Linda said, go follow her on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, everywhere. I have just sent a connect request with her on LinkedIn as well. Linda, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on the show. I am truly, truly honored to have you on here. And I look forward to what you guys have in store in the future.
Thank you. We have a big 3-day conference next year in Portland in
Wow.
Oregon in June the 6th to the 8th.
All right, fantastic. Okay, again, all our audience listeners out there, watch out for that one. Linda, thank you so much for being on the show. We'll make sure to put up everything on there so everyone can know, everyone can find out. I am honored. I'm just happy that I got to share this to the audience, that I learned myself, and that we learned from your story as well. Thank you for coming on the show, Linda.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
To all our audience and listeners out there, go check out those things, go check out those websites, go follow Linda, get connected with her, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.